Dear friend, let us return once more to the wheat fields of Judea. We have already witnessed the disciples picking grain because they were hungry. We have already heard Jesus recall the story of King David eating the consecrated bread in order to preserve life. At this point, the story could have ended. The Pharisees had received a sufficient answer. They could not argue against the precedent of King David, the greatest king in Jewish history. From a logical standpoint, Jesus had won. He had shown that in moments of real need, human necessity is allowed to take precedence over ritual. If Jesus were an ordinary debater, he would have stopped there. He would have let them walk away in frustrated silence. But Jesus did not come into the world to win arguments. He came to change the order of the world. So just when the tension seemed to settle, he took one step further, a step no one expected. A step that no longer relied on precedent from the past, but instead established an entirely new authority for the future. He looked straight at them and made a brief declaration, yet one whose impact was more powerful than thunder. The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. Luke 6-5, Matthew 12-8. In that moment, every argument about whether it was lawful to pick grain or not became meaningless, because the question was no longer, what does the law allow? But rather, who is standing in front of you right now? Today, we will go deeper into this declaration, because it is this very statement that will free you from the invisible chains you have been carrying for so long. To grasp the full weight of this statement, we need to put ourselves in the shoes of a first-century Jew. For them, the Sabbath was not merely a weekend day off. It was the sign of the covenant. It was the most sacred marker that set God's people apart from all other nations. God himself had established it. Only God had the authority to define it or change it. No human being, no matter how great, whether king or prophet, would ever dare to claim authority over the Sabbath. And yet here stood this carpenter from Nazareth, dust on his feet, standing in the middle of a grain field, saying, I am Lord of the Sabbath. This was equivalent to saying, I stand above the law. I am the one who wrote the law, and I have the authority to redefine it. This was an earthquake. It shattered the entire power structure of the religious leaders. They were the guardians of the law, the interpreters of the law, the ones who used the law to control the people. But now, there was someone standing before them declaring that the law itself must serve him. Why would Jesus do something so shocking? Because he knew that as long as human beings treat the law as their master, they will remain burdened and oppressed. He had to declare his authority in order to return freedom to humanity. Pay close attention to the title he chose to use, the Son of Man. He did not say, I, the Son of God, am Lord of the Sabbath, even though that would have been true. Instead, he deliberately chose the title, the Son of Man. In the language of Scripture, especially in the book of Daniel, the Son of Man is a messianic title, the figure to whom authority over all nations is given. But in everyday language, the phrase also carries another meaning, humanity, itself, human fragility, human limitation, the condition of being human. When Jesus says, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath, he is carrying out a revolution of values. He is binding divine authority to human experience. He is saying this: God is not standing far above you, watching from a distance, looking for mistakes in how you keep the day of rest. God has become a human being. He has stepped into your hunger, your exhaustion, your weakness. And it is this, the one who understands human life from the inside, who holds the final authority to judge. The Sabbath no longer belongs to cold law books. The Sabbath belongs to the one who loves humanity. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus goes on to explain this declaration with a foundational principle. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Mark 2:27. This is the key that unlocks every dead end we find ourselves trapped in. Imagine a hammer. A hammer is made to serve the carpenter. If it helps him drive nails, it is good. But if one day the hammer demands that the carpenter serve it, that he spend all day polishing it and admiring it, but never actually driving nails, then the hammer has become the master. At that point, it is no longer useful. It becomes harmful. The Sabbath is the same way. It is a tool God gave so that human beings could be restored, physically renewed, spiritually nourished, and able to enjoy life. But the Pharisees reversed that order. They demanded that people sacrifice their basic human needs in order to serve the sanctity of the Sabbath. They turned human beings into slaves of a day meant for rest. Jesus came to overturn that entire arrangement. He says, in effect, no, you matter more than the Sabbath. Your life is more valuable than the rule. Dear friend, this story is not only for ancient Jews. It is for you and me, right here in the 21st century. We may no longer argue about picking grain, but we are living under the rule of countless other invisible Sabbaths, invisible masters that demand our service. The Sabbath of productivity. It says, you only have value if you're working. You're not allowed to rest until everything is done. And so, instead of work serving your life, you sacrifice sleep, health, and joy to serve the God of work. Were you created for work, or was work created for you? The Sabbath of success. It says, you must reach this milestone, buy that house, achieve that status. Only then are you allowed to be happy. So you chase it, exhausted, losing the present moment. Are you mastering success, or is success mastering you? The Sabbath of perfection. It says, everything must be flawless, mistakes are not allowed. And you end up living in constant anxiety. We keep asking ourselves, am I allowed to rest? Am I doing enough? We are still living like slaves, afraid of breaking the unspoken rules of society. And the declaration of Jesus still echoes today. The Son of Man is Lord of all these things. You, simply by being a human being loved by God, are worth more than all these standards. Work exists to serve you. Money exists to serve you. Social expectations are meant to be consulted, not to rule over you. Jesus invites you to step out of the position of a slave and into the position of one who is free, to become a steward of your own life under His grace. But be careful. The freedom Jesus brings is not indulgence or recklessness. When He says, I am Lord of the Sabbath, He is not abolishing the Sabbath. He is not saying, forget it all, do whatever you want, live however you please. No, He is restoring the Sabbath to its original purpose. True freedom always requires inner maturity. When the law stays outside of you like the Pharisees' rulebook, you only need to obey mechanically. It's simple, but it is suffocating. When the law moves inside you, the law of love and life, you must take responsibility. You are free to rest. But how will you rest in a way that truly restores you, rather than helping you escape responsibility? You are free from the pressure of performance. But how will you live so that your life still bears good fruit? The Sabbath under Jesus' Lordship is a living Sabbath, not a Sabbath of doing nothing, but a Sabbath of doing what brings life. If picking grain brings life to a hungry body, do it. If healing brings life to a suffering person, as we will see in the next scene, do it. That is the freedom Jesus proclaims. The declaration, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath, is, in the end, an invitation to heal the relationship between you and yourself. Many of us are the most ruthless masters we will ever have. We are harsher with ourselves than anyone else could be. We do not allow ourselves to be weak. But the Lord of the Sabbath is standing before you and saying, I, the one who created you, give you permission to stop. He gives you the right to listen to your own body, the right to say no to unreasonable pressures, the right to eat when you are hungry, to sleep when you are tired, and to cry when you are in pain. Because holiness is not found in forcing yourself to endure at all costs. Holiness is found in a peaceful heart, a heart that knows it is loved and knows how to cherish the gift of life that God has given. As the story in the grain fields comes to a close, the boundaries of spiritual life are redrawn once and for all. No longer does the law stand above human beings. No longer is ritual placed higher than life. No longer is there a morality devoid of compassion. Jesus has declared His authority, and that authority is love. But this revolution does not end with words alone. Immediately after this declaration, Jesus will move from the grain fields into the synagogue, the stronghold of the law-keepers themselves. And there, he will prove his lordship through a concrete action, a miracle that will ignite the fury of his opponents. That is the story of part 4. For now, let his declaration sink deeply into your heart. The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. You belong to him. You do not belong to pressure. Rest in that truth.